Is there a better man to oversee the sensitive post-Jurgen Klopp era than Michael Edwards? We really doubt it. The former sporting director was a key figure behind Liverpool's recent success, making crucial transfer decisions. One notable example is how he convinced Klopp to bring in Mohamed Salah instead of Julian Brandt, and look how that turned out. Now, Edwards is back as a club's CEO of football. With the Reds heading into a new season under new manager Arne Slot, there's no doubt that Edwards and his team will be planning to address the squad's shortcomings in the best possible way. That's why in today's video we're diving deeper into Liverpool's transfer plans for this summer under the new CEO of football to discuss the targeted players and what they offer. So hit those like and subscribe buttons and let's jump straight into it. There's no doubt that Edwards' departure back in 2022 had an impact on the team. Klopp and his staff struggled with the squad planning, leading to an underwhelming 2022-23 campaign, where the ageing midfield failed to perform. Player profiling wasn't at its best either. Take Darwin Núñez for example. Don't get us wrong, the Uruguayan has huge potential to become one of the best number 9s in the world, but compared to Roberto Firmino, whom he was supposed to replace, there's a significant difference in their playing styles. With the return of the transfers Don, these issues are expected to be resolved thanks to his data-driven approach to identifying and recruiting players. According to Football Insider, Liverpool's transfer plans under Edwards and Hughes will be data-based, focusing on finding the best possible options under the age of 25. So let's delve into the areas a club should prioritise this transfer window, while looking at options that meet the set criteria. We can all agree that the most obvious position the Reds need to reinforce this season is the defence, specifically a new centre-back. Stay with us as we explain why this position should be a priority. Currently the club has 7 centre-backs. That sounds like plenty, doesn't it? Well, it's not, so bear with us for a moment. Remember Nathaniel Phillips and Reece Williams, who stepped up during Liverpool's injury crisis back in 2021. Since then, both players have combined for just 5 appearances for the club. They are returning to the Reds squad after 2 loan spells, and there's little chance they will feature under the new manager. There's also the 22-year-old Sepp van den Berg, who's been on a loan in the Bundesliga with Mainz. This is his 3rd loan spell away from Anfield, and he still doesn't seem closer to challenging for a place in the first team. So 3 down, 4 defenders left: Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate, Jarell Quansah and Joe Gomez. It's also worth mentioning that Joe Gomez has been mainly used as a utility player recently, covering positions from fullback to defensive midfielder. So, the Reds are practically left with 3 centre-backs, and by the way we should remind you that all 3 players are right-footed. While this might not seem like a major issue, it could impact the way Arne Slot likes to build out from the back. See, having 2 centre-backs with different dominant feet can enhance ball circulation and progression higher up the pitch. Sure, a right-footed centre-back can play on the left, as Van Dijk has been doing, but during games some situations might require a left-footed player from deep. Some might say that Robertson can act as a left-sided centre-back during build-up, but we've seen many times last season how he struggled in that role. Now, there are plenty of left-footed defenders linked with the club, but we'll focus on 3 players before providing our preferred choice: Goncalo Inacio, William Pacho and Piero Hincapié. All 3 players are under the age of 25 and possess the ability to progress the ball, either through passing or carrying. Pacho might be slightly less adept at this compared to the other 2, but he compensates with his aggressive playing style. The Ecuadorian stands out for his ability to push higher up the pitch, helping his team sustain pressure. The transfer fees for these 3 players might be in a similar range, with Inacio being the most expensive due to his release clause of around £51 million. Now, for our pick, this player might be cheaper than all the options mentioned, valued at around £30 million. However, securing a deal might be tougher since Italian giants Juventus are also interested in him. We're talking about Riccardo Cagliafiori, the 22-year-old Bologna centre-back who proved to be a tactical revolution under Thiago Motta last season. Here you can see how highly ranked the young Italian is in both defending and attacking metrics. He could be the perfect fit for the left centre-back hybrid role, as he has the ability to push forward and influence the attacking phase, while his top athleticism allows him to cover spaces in behind. But with the Italian already catching eyes during the Euros, a deal might become even more difficult. So, who would be your favourite pick for the centre-back position? Do you think the player must be left-footed, or is that not such an important detail? Let us know in the comments below. Now, moving higher up the pitch, there's no doubt the club needs to address the number 6 situation. It's true that the Reds underwent an overhaul last summer, bringing in 4 new midfielders to replace Fabinho, Milner and Henderson, but does that mean the club won't have to strengthen this area again? Not really. Liverpool currently has only Wataru Endo as a recognised number 6, and he wasn't even brought in to be a regular starter. The Japanese player is also 31 years old, and although he impressed during the season, it's likely the club will look for a new midfielder, especially with Slot's preference for playing with a double pivot. If the Dutchman was to use his preferred 4-2-3-1, there's no doubt that he will have options to choose from. For example, Alexis McAllister, Curtis Jones and even Ryan Gravenberch can fill that role of a box-to-box midfielder, impacting all phases of play. However, the club also needs a destroyer in the middle of the park who can not only protect the back line but also progress the ball and influence play in the final third. This is where Wataru Endo falls short. As his creativity and attacking impact are somewhat limited, the club have been linked with multiple players who fit the criteria criteria of being young and suitable for Arne Slot's double pivot system. First, there's Slot's man himself, Matt Swifer, who has been key to Feyenoord's success in the last 2 campaigns. The 24-year-old can be found all over the pitch, filling vacant spaces to pick up loose balls and relentlessly putting in the tackles, but he's also capable of progressing the ball and making penetrating runs into the final third, contribute to the side's offensive play. But Swifer isn't the only option being considered for the defensive midfield position. In fact, there have been 3 other players linked with a move to Anfield. The first is Porto's 22-year-old midfielder, Alan Varela, who is often compared to Javier Mascherano. Both players hail from Argentina and share a similar hunger and skill with the ball at their feet. Varela ranks highly amongst other midfielders in Liga Portugal in terms of passing quality and volume. However, his hefty £6 million release clause might force the Reds to reconsider their options. The second player also comes from the Portuguese league, and if you thought Varela's release clause was over the top, wait to hear about this one. We're talking about Benfica's latest prodigy, João Neves. At 19 years old, Neves has established himself as one of the brightest prospects for the number 6 position. The kid is even part of the Portuguese national side during this Euros. Yes, he might be small, standing at just 5'8", which raises questions about his ability to compete in the Premier League with its physicality, especially in the air. However, Neves has proven to be an athletic specimen despite his small stature. Neves won 58.6% of aerial duels last season, which is impressive for a player of his size. He achieves this through great positional sense and timing of his jumps, and as we mentioned, he's a top athlete. Neves' defensive and offensive numbers are simply mind-blowing. Not only is he relentless out of possession, but he also has a technical ability on the ball to break opposition lines with his passes or evade pressure to help maintain possession. But as we said, his price might shock you. Benfica are reportedly asking for £102 million, which is the value of his release clause. Whether the Reds are willing to splash that cash on such a young talented player remains to be seen. Moving on to the third midfielder linked with the club, we have Brazilian 24-year-old Ederson. The Europa League champion first caught attention during the Reds' tie with Atalanta, where he put in a fantastic display over the 2 legs. Ederson is expected to cost the club around £40 million, similar to Swifer, and like all the players discussed before, Ederson can be influential both in and out of possession, although to a lesser extent, possibly due to the Italian league being more competitive than the Eredivisie and Primeira Liga. Nevertheless, his profile still suits Arne Slot's double pivot. Here you can see a comparison between all 4 players we just discussed. Now we want to hear your thoughts. Which midfielder would you prefer, or do you have any other names in mind for the number 6 position? Let us know what you think in the comments. Now, let's move into our final area, the attack. Believe it or not, adding an offensive player might not be as urgent as addressing defensive or midfield issues, especially if there are no outgoings. The only scenario where the attack becomes an emergency is if one of Salah or Diaz decides to leave the club, which looks unlikely given recent reports. But the transfer window is long and you never know what could happen, so let us explore some players the club might want to have a look at. The most obvious option would be West Ham's Mohamed Kudus. What can we say about the Ghanaian? With an average of 2.44 tackles per 90 minutes, Kudus ranks in the 95th percentile among other wingers in this metric. He is a literal pressing monster, fitting perfectly into the aggressive way Arne Slot wants his wingers to be out of possession, but that's not all. Kudus is a 1v1 specialist, with the ability to take on defenders with skill, pace and power. He's the second most prolific Premier League winger in terms of dribbles per 90, with a 51% success rate, so he fits the mould of Arne Slot winger who's willing to consistently take on his markers. The 23-year-old reportedly has an £85 million release clause that would only come into play next summer, so there might be a chance for the Reds to get him for less, especially if the player is keen on a move. However, Kudus isn't the only winger linked with the Reds. We all remember Crescencio Somerville, who scored that late winner against us at Anfield. The 22-year-old had a stellar championship campaign with Leeds, scoring 21 goals and providing 10 assists. He is also being monitored by the club and is said to be admired by the new boss. Let's be honest, based on how Slot likes his wingers, he likes to stay wide, is excellent at taking on players, and is creative between the lines. And to finish it off, let's talk about one more player who's been the talk of the town in Napoli, but not for good reasons, so hear us out. You remember the 2022-23 campaign when Napoli dominated Italy to win a long-awaited league title, right? Well, Kvaratskhelia proved to be a sensational signing for the club, as he was one of the best performers in a historic campaign. And despite a drop-off in his offensive numbers this past campaign, Kvara is still among the best dribblers and ball carriers in the world. You can see here that his ability to beat defenders and progress the ball remains top-notch, making him an intriguing option for the Reds. Why do we think a deal might be possible? Early this month, Kvara's father and agent made the situation tense at Napoli, expressing their dissatisfaction with the club's managerial decisions. Sure, Napoli has taken a firm stance, saying that Kvara is not for sale, but would they be happy to let one of their best players sit on the bench if he decides he no longer wants to play for them? That seems unlikely, and it could open the door for the Reds to make a move. Of course, Liverpool's transfer plans will depend on outgoings and the budget allocated for new arrivals. However, the priority positions for the club should be a defender and a midfielder. Sure, the offensive line might need to be strengthened, but is it considered an urgent matter? Especially if there are no sales in this department, we really doubt it. So which positions do you think should be prioritised? Do you agree you of our Calafiori pick? Who are the players you want the club to sign? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons for more content. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.